Oh, Ryan Day, it's fair to say it's gone reasonably well for him in his first couple years at the helm of Ohio State. Yet to lose a regular season game in his first 2 years at the helm, and of course has his eyes on this trophy, the National Championship Trophy for 2022. Be handed out at the end of this season right here in this very building. And in this building where the Buckeyes have won 4 straight Big Ten titles, you see the award for the biggest side session of the day going to Ryan Day for obvious reasons. The Buckeyes, of course, generate headlines everywhere they go, and we are pleased to have Ohio State's head coach on the set with us right now. And, Coach, there is some symmetry here. I mean, you think about the Big Ten title is going to be played in this building, and, of course, the national championship will be played here as well. You guys got a chance to play in that game last year. Now would have a chance maybe to win a trophy here. I talked about this a little bit with your players. To what extent do you use that kind of location as somewhat of an incentive for the guys or a motivator to say, hey, we want to come back here not once but twice?
I don't know. I mean, this is a great setting to have media days. It's great to be in Lucas Oil. I think maybe, if you have the opportunity to get into the championship game and you win, then maybe once you get to that point, you could say, now we get back into this stadium, you can go win the national championship. But until then, we have so much stuff ahead of us, and we just got to win our first game against Minnesota.
It's our job to jump ahead.
I know. That's all right.
Right. We jump ahead illogically, and don't worry about everything that comes in between.
Coach, when you're in a quarterback battle, what are the most important qualities that usually separates the starter from the competition?
I was just talking about this. I think one of the things is how bad do you really want it? How much work are you willing to put in? Preparation for a practice, physically, mentally, emotionally, in the film room, so that, can you outwork me? Do you know the answer to the test before even I do? Because I'm certainly involved with the quarterbacks a lot. And I think that's a big part of it. But once you're on the field, it's taking care of the football, making good decisions, and making routine plays routinely. The one good thing about our guys this year is that we have a pretty good supporting cast around them. So I think if we can make routine plays routinely and take care of the football, they'll have a chance to be successful this year.
Coach, you talked about having a young team in a lot of positions. How do you battle young players getting complacent or believing that, okay, it's my turn, I can be the next great one because it's been done before, and I just need to step in?
Yeah, well, I think that they understand at our place that, once you get on the field, you better produce, and that's part of the deal. A lot of our guys haven't played a lot of football. We missed the 1,000 reps last year, and so because of that, I talked about this before, in the game of football, you don't play a lot of football. What I mean by that is growing up, you play basketball, you play baseball, you play soccer. You're always playing games growing up. You don't play that in football. You just don't have that many built-up reps. You play a little bit in high school, but now because of this COVID and there wasn't as many games, these guys haven't played a lot of football. So that's why preseason is going to be so important for us.
You mentioned you're involved with coaching the quarterbacks. Has your daily and weekly management of time changed now that you've had a couple of years behind you as a head coach?
Yeah, it has.
How has it changed?
Yeah, I think I'm still involved with special teams, and I think that's important, especially having a lot of daily contact with the guys on defense, and I think that's important. But I still involved with the quarterback and making sure that, and even with the wide receivers when I can, to get those guys all on the same page together so that they're hearing one voice. But I've just tried to find that rhythm of special teams and quarterbacks.
You mentioned from the podium also the NIL and how you'd like to see it be able to trickle down so other people would be able to get opportunities too. It wouldn't just be one guy. Is that something that you're sensing in your locker room, where you just believe that that's the way it should go for it to be successful?
No, I haven't seen anything like that. And I want to clarify that it isn't like, I don't think, the quarterback should be able to go out and make a whole bunch of money. I don't think that. I think that there should be opportunity in some sort of a side, I don't know if it's a player union deal, where there's opportunity for those guys to make something and spread that thing around. But I also think there should be another situation where those guys can go make their own money too and go make as much money as they want. But I think as a group, there's an opportunity to make some money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. How do you handle that if it comes up with a guy, and it probably won't come up at your place, but a guy decides is late for a meal. He's late for a study hall because he believes he needs to make sure he gets this tweet out, or he needs to do this interview because of the contract he signed. How do you handle that, or how do you discipline that? Well,
I think first off, you have to recruit great people who understand that, that if the football and the academics aren't taken care of and they're not doing things the right way, then these things they're not gonna work. I also think that, in the NFL, some guys get paid a certain amount of money, other ones don't. That's kind of life a little bit. And so we're going to have to negotiate that. Guys are going to learn, financial literacy, which is great. But I also think that, the time commitment with social media and all that stuff isn't going to be as much as maybe we think.
Historically, defenses eventually catch up to the offenses, but it seems like it's taken the defense much longer in this cycle catching up with the spread. What are the trends defensively that you're seeing that people stop offenses like yours, try to stop offenses like yours?
Yeah, I see a lot of guys canceling gaps out, and forcing the ball on the outside a bunch. A lot of 3-down scheme where, you see in those 4 eyes where it's a little bit harder.
Right.
And guys are just doing a good job handling some of the wide receiver screens on the perimeter. You don't see a lot of those bubbles thrown as much anymore. And guys are doing a good job of, for example, if 3 guys are detached, they won't bring the Sam Lampard, they bring the Mike, and they make sure that all that stuff's handled on the perimeter. And so I think, more and more, like you said, they've kind of caught up a little bit with the spread stuff. Certainly have caught up with the tempo stuff. I don't think there's much of a advantage anymore with tempo. And certainly, the referees don't allow you to snap the ball inside of 10 seconds anymore. They kind of stand over it a little bit. So that's really changed in the last few years. And I also see it maybe going a little bit more 12 and 13 personnel heading into the next couple of years.
What is the next evolution when you talk about the college offensive game? Where are we headed with this?
I think probably that. I think it's almost maybe a little bit of a throwback of some under center, 2-back, downhill run game mixed in with some of the spread stuff. I can see it kind of cycling back that way a little bit because maybe some of the teams, they haven't recruited to stopping bigger personnel. I think that maybe now in our conference, we see that anyway with Wisconsin and Iowa anyway, so that kind of, fits a little bit here. But nationally, I think you may see some of that coming back.
So we could see some traditional I formation teams integrate the spread and some spread teams integrate the I formation.
I think so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, 907 coming back.
What's old is what's new. Coach, we were talking about NIL a little bit with Howard, and that was one of the huge topics of conversation this offseason. One of the other big topics of conversation was the college football playoff and the potential to expand it. Now, you are in an interesting point of view here, right? Because this thing's been going for 7 years. Ohio State has made it 4 times. So you talk about that small number of schools for whom this system has worked pretty darn well. What's your stance on the potential to expand the playoff?
I think that if you win the Big Ten Conference, you should get into the playoffs. Now, what does that mean and what are the ramifications and all that? I'll leave that up to the experts. I don't know all that. I'm trying to win the first game against Minnesota. But I do think that should happen because as much as, we all love how much game 1, 2, and 3 matter, this year for us, for example, we play Minnesota and Oregon. If there was an 8 or 12 game, where the conference champ automatically goes in, you could lose both those games, run the table, and make it in, and then win the national championship. Where this year, if that were to happen, your season's over.
Right.
So it's just a very different dynamic, and I think it's a good thing, for our conference to have the champ go in. I think we got to look at how many games can an 18 to 22-year-old play in a season. I think we got to look at the venues. Do we play in domes? Do we play outside? I think there's a lot that comes with that. And there's been a lot of change in college football. And this is just another one that I worry about. Sometimes we wake up in 5 years and we don't recognize the game anymore.
What is your number of games? What's the max they should be playing?
Yeah, I think it's either 14 or 15. Yeah, I don't think you can go any north of that.
And they're playing more snaps than the NFL guys are playing, right? Because of the style of offense.
Oh, yeah.
So that'd be like 16 NFL games.
It's a lot.
A lot of snaps.
It is a lot of snaps, yeah.
I know if there's an area that you wanted to improve on last year, it is pass defense. Give us a sense of how you saw that group evolve, both from a pass rushing point of view, and we were talking about this earlier when I had your players up here. Zach Harrison was saying, hey, a lot of it is about affecting the quarterback, and there's something to be said for the defensive line, but also in the secondary and what you've seen from that group.
Yeah, when Greg Madison retired after an unbelievable career, we decided to move some things around. We moved Matt Barnes over to the secondary, so he's coaching the secondary, and that freed up Kerry to walk around. But Kerry's also going to have his hand in it. So I think between the two of them, they really have this thing surrounded, and I feel really good about where we're at there. But we also recruited and brought in more depth. We were very thin there last year. I'm very excited about and pleased with the way we stopped the run. We were, I think, 6th in the country last year in stopping the run. But like you said, too many big plays in the back end. So anytime you have a situation like that, is it coaching, is it personnel, or is it scheme? And I would say probably a little bit of all three. And so we addressed each of those areas and trying to get them fixed.
You were talking about the schedule. This has been a trend now of opening with conference games. You guys had done it a couple of times previously, but now it's more pervasive throughout the league. And then, as you said, a huge game against Oregon early in the season, particularly given that you're a team that can't afford to lose maybe more than one game, right, to meet your goals. How does that change your emphasis in the preseason?
Well, it changes my sleep pattern for sure. I'll tell you that in the preseason. A lot of anxiety going into this one. But I think you have to have a great preseason. When you combine the fact that we didn't have as big of a season last year, as long as a season, and we have to start right away with a freshman quarterback or a young quarterback, a young group at linebacker, preseason is going to be hard.
So does opening with a conference game change your camp?
Yes.
On any year? It does. How?
Yeah. Well, I think that you have to go into that game hard. You're going to have to tackle. You're going to have to block. We can't go into that game and be like, well, I hope we tackle well. That's not going to work very well. So it's going to be more physical. We start out with 4 practices, and then we have 2 hard weeks in there. And, we're going to have to be physical, and we're going to have to tackle.
New practice schedule, new practice rules.
Yeah.
I think the only one that has said they wish it was a little different was Kirk Ferentz. He said maybe more time. Do you feel the same way, that you could do the same amount of contact with more time would be better for the players?
I would support that. Yeah. The only other issue I have with it is, the difference between helmets and shoulder pads and just pads. To me, why won't you just make them all padded and let the coaches handle it, and then mix in the helmet practices?
Because you'd naturally take the pants off anyway.
You would. Mm-hmm. You would. And if you want to be able to wear the pads and protect their lower half, then put them on.
Right. I mean, there's still a thought out there that the coaches are trying to kill the players. I mean, by so many people making the rules. I mean, if anyone's you're protecting them more than anyone else.
Right. We got to get them to the game.
No question about it. Hey, I expect Jerry to ask a recruiting question, but since he didn't ask a recruiting question,
I leave it to you.
Yeah. You have a fairly good class going, I noticed.
That's why it's a boring question. That's why I can answer it. Ask it.
How have you been able to elevate? I mean, look, again, part of what I find fascinating is that you took over for a guy who I think we all consider one of the top 5 coaches probably in the history of college football. I mean, he is certainly going to be in that conversation. And yet, in some ways, and I say that he's fabulous, but there are some parts of what he did that you have elevated. And recruiting it's right there, right? This class is phenomenal. So how have you done this? What have you done differently?
And I learned a lot from Coach Meyer and the way he's done it and what he built. And I think what we've done the last couple of years is really try to identify the right people that fit us, be authentic, and make sure that we're recruiting really highly competitive young men who want to be at Ohio State. I got to tell you, my recruiting pitch probably isn't as impressive as you might think. If you don't want to come here, then I get it, and there's probably a place for you. But here's who we are. Here's why we think it's a great fit. It's one of the most highly competitive programs in the country. You're going to be in a room with 4 and 5 stars, but we're going to love the heck out of you. It's going to be tough, but we're going to love you. And I think if that resonates with a family and with a recruit, then they really grab onto it and make it theirs.
So you're answering questions now, I'm guessing, from parents about the NIL, right? I mean, for the first time in the history of the game. So what are some of the questions? What do the parents want to know about the NIL?
A lot of them want to know what is it. They don't even know what it is. And then, really explaining to them what it's going to look like. A lot of times I don't know what it's going to look like, and just being, really honest with them. For us, when you combine the Ohio State brand, the Ohio State football brand, the city of Columbus, our social media presence, the opportunity is tremendous there. And I think that's exciting for everybody. Where and how it looks over the next year, it's going to be a little bit like driving without any brakes, but we're going to work through it. Gene Smith's been on the NIL committee for the last 2 years, so we've kind of had a little bit of a head start in this thing, and we've educated our guys, really, really well.
Well, I think it's going to be fascinating to see where we are when we get through a cycle.
I know.
3, 4, 5 years.
Yep.
We really understand where this is going, but it is fascinating, and I know a great opportunity for your players. Coach, we're always appreciative. You're very generous with your time. Thanks a lot for spending some time with us.
Absolutely. Great to see you guys.
All right. 4 straight Big Ten championships for the Ohio State Buckeyes, only school ever to win 4 in a row outright and making themselves at home here at Lucas Oil Stadium, as they seem to do every December, coming in and winning the Big Ten championship game. Lost about half of their production from last year. You see, second fewest in the FBS. Actually, the fewest is also in the Big Ten in Northwestern. You see the race for the starting QB job, including 3 different players, but a number of key returnees, including the 2 guys you see there, and the 3 guys you see on the set with me right now, Zach Harrison, Jeremy Ruckert, Thayer Munford. Really great to have the 3 of you with me. And let's start first with last year. You played for the national championship. It's the goal of every single player. You fell a little bit short in that game. So as you look at last year and you try to put some perspective on it, Zach, how do you categorize it? Success, not quite the success you wanted, somewhere in between? How would you label last year?
I mean, last year we did a bunch of good things. You know, we made it to the national championship, and with all the hardships that COVID had brought towards us, you know, that making it that far is a good accomplishment. Now, we did come short, and that's something that, you know, we took into the offseason, we put a chip on our shoulder. We got a bad taste in our mouth leaving the field the last time, and we know we had to work just that much harder to get back to that point and win that game next year.
Jeremy?
Yeah, like Zach said, just to piggyback on that, you know, we were really proud of how we really overcame last year with the whole COVID and everything like that. The uncertainty behind it, playing every game and practicing every day without really knowing if you're going to have the opportunity to play. So being able to get as far as we did was definitely an accomplishment. But, you know, we came up short, and we're going to take those things, and we took them into the offseason with, like Zach said, a chip on our shoulder. And we're excited for this year. We hopefully can get back and not leave any stones unturned this year.
Well, if you do get back, you know, it's in this building.
Yeah.
And, of course, the Big Ten championship game is a game you've had incredible success in. I mentioned it there a moment ago, 4 straight Big Ten championship game wins. No program's ever done that. No program ever in a league that dates back to the 1890s has won the outright title 4 times in a row until you guys did it. I realize this is a program that measures itself in a large sense by national championships, but what does it mean to you to hear, hey, no one's ever done what this program has done in the Big Ten there?
You know, being here for 5 years, of course, coming to my first one, 2017, with JT being our quarterback and being here when I was actually playing it. Like, it's crazy how everything works, though, and we're all happy to actually be a part of, like, the 4 teams actually, like, made it here and won it. So I think just everybody just so happy just to be here and so blessed to be here as well.
As you think about the fact the national championship game is going to be played here, the fact that you guys have had as much success in this building as you have, I mean, can you envision yourself? Are you one of these guys there who goes through visualization and walks through here and says, we need to be back here on January 10th?
After, like, every game, like, here, of course, I'm always like, all right, we need to come back again because it was actually pretty fun, you know. And I can speak for Zach and Jeremy. We love playing here, you know. We call it, like, our second home, but also at the same time, we always want to actually come back again, actually beat the team, whoever's playing against us again and again until, you know, they beat us.
Jeremy, what's your best memory of last year?
I think last year the best memory for us was just being able to come together. I think being apart for so long was difficult for us, you know, being home in all different parts of the country, having things being taken away from us left and right. I think the biggest thing for us was having the opportunity to play and not leaving anything behind. So I think coming together in a year of such uncertainty and so many difficulties, I think that's what really propelled us to have so much success. So, yeah, I would say the brotherhood coming together.
How about for you, Zach, a young player who made such an impact last year? What will you take from it?
Yeah, you know, playing as a young player, I feel like I have a lot of experience under my belt, you know, and it's something that I'll have to pull on this year into my future football careers. But as in terms of my favorite memories, it's probably just locker room moments. Like Ruck said, we got so close as a team because we were all around each other 24/7 all day, pretty much every day. And that's how you really, you know, build the bond and the brotherhood that we always preach at Ohio State. And that 2020 team that we had on team, I can speak for, I don't know how y'all feel, but that's the closest team I've ever been on. Like those guys who are guys who I'm ready to go to war with, for my brothers, for real.
Thayer, what was the biggest impetus for you to come back? What swayed your decision?
Well, for me, it's basically my education. I need to get my degree before I go to the next level, of course, because I always thought about with my family, especially my mom, that always harped on like education for me, because I'd be the first one in my family to actually like go into college, like going to college to actually graduate college too. And for me, for instance, that would be a great accomplishment for myself, And it's also a great accomplishment for me to actually help the young guys out and have, these two other leaders here to actually help me out to actually push this team to actually go to the national championship again.
Well, that's tremendous, and congratulations to you on getting that degree or being on the verge of getting that degree. It is a huge accomplishment. You think about going to college, that's a major part of what it's about. I understand. I'm not going to be foolish and say there isn't a major part of being a football player, particularly at a place like Ohio State, that's also about winning and winning championships. So what's been the biggest focus in the offseason? You're a team that was one game away, Zach. What's been the biggest focus in getting back there and coming away with a W?
Just what more do we have to do? Because we always work hard at Ohio State. That's something we hang our hat on, but, we fell short. So, obviously, we didn't work hard enough. It's what things we can do to get that extra play that we needed in the national championship. Maybe it was go on an extra sprint or going, an extra set in the weight room or, doing an extra rep after practice. It's the things that going to push us over the edge and take us to where we really need to go to reach the mountaintop.
What's been your biggest focus, Jeremy?
I think realizing, especially as an older guy coming back, is that this thing's terminal. This year's terminal. It's coming to an end, so what are you going to do to leave no regrets at the end of it? You're fighting every day to be the best you can, to really be in the position to be leaned on by the younger guys. I think that's big for us, and realizing that this is all going to come to an end, so you don't want to leave anything to regret on, and really just give everything you got for this last year.
Thayer, what's been the focus of your offseason?
For me, for the offseason, for myself, is basically like being more like vocal leader, and also like focus on my technique as well to actually make sure that our DNs get more pressures, of course, too, and our DNs make me better and me and Nick Petit better as well. Everybody got to make each other better. You're not just like one person. Everybody does. Like Zach makes me better. Jeremy makes the linebackers better. Chris and Garrett makes our DBs better. Like everybody makes everybody better on our team.
Well, Zach, along those lines, this defense wasn't quite at the level that it normally expects to be at last year. And a lot of that was pass defense, but how much of that is pressure up front, and how big of a role do you think you play in getting that pass defense back to where it needs to be?
Yeah, it definitely ties in. Coverage and rushing go hand in hand. The DBs cover for long enough for us to get home, and we rush, so the DBs don't cover forever. So that's something that we've talked about with the D-line or the defense in the unit, and we've talked about, in the D-line room, like how do we help those DBs out? How do we get that extra step to get home? Because last year we had a bunch of pressures. Like we had, I don't know how many, but we had a lot of pressures in the season, and Coach Jay challenged us. How do we turn those pressures into sacks? Because sacks and drives, sacks and quarters, sacks and halves. Whereas a pressure, quarterback can get the ball off. That can be a 15-yard game, things like that. That's what we've focused on for the most part.
Jeremy, on the other side of the ball, everyone wants to know about the quarterback play, right? It is a big question mark for this team coming into this season. You don't have anyone who's thrown a pass in a college football game. You're on the receiving end of a lot of those throws. Give people insight into the three guys battling for the starting job.
Yeah, they're all coming along really well. We're proud of those guys. We trust those guys, and just going back to what we said before, just trying to be the guy that they can lean on if they have anything they're curious about, anything they need help with, because like you said, they haven't really been through it, but I feel like they're buying into our culture really well. All three of those guys are showing great things, and we're really excited to see how much they improve this offseason and which one ends up leading our team. We support 100%.
I'm interested in the strengths of each one, so kind of take me through CJ and Jack and Kyle and where each one of them excels.
Yeah, as you can tell, they're all very talented. I think going back to last year, CJ had a little bit more experience in the game, so I think that might be able to help him out a little bit. Jack's arm talent is something special. He can really throw the ball, spin it really well. And Kyle coming in as a freshman, he's really showing that he's a professional. You see him late night coming in there and working out extra and just showing that he really cares. So they all bring different things to the table, and we're really excited to see how they really turn out and how things pan out.
I got this sense as I watched you guys in that college football playoff run last year, it felt like the tight end was a bigger part of the offense in those games than maybe it had been earlier in the year. Do you get a sense it's developing in that way, or was that just a wrinkle for the playoff?
I think the way that we practice, especially in our tight end room, is just to be able to do whatever it takes for us to win. So whether it's one week being able to be better pass catchers, or the next week being able to be relied on as pass blockers, I think it's important for us to stress that we play a position that's you have to do all different types of things, and being able to develop that and train that to where in any given moment, in any given game, whatever you're asked to do, you're ready, and your mind's capable of making that play, whether it's a catch or whether it's a block. So I think whatever they need us to do, we're going to be ready for it.
They're one of the elder statesmen on this team, and I'm fascinated to know what this transition in coaching has been like for you. I mean, you played for one of the all-time great coaches in the history of college football, and Urban Meyer is now coaching, of course, in the NFL. But, I mean, he's a surefire Hall of Famer. He'll be mentioned among the best 5 coaches probably ever to coach in the game. And then Ryan Day comes in, and the program has not missed a beat. So give me a sense of, with all that pressure and all that focus on him, how Ryan Day has come in and put his stamp on this program.
When Coach Meyer left, of course, like, I know some of us kind of like heartbroken, of course, but also at the same time, like, Coach Day has been there since my freshman year, or actually 2016, I believe. And he's been with us, been with the offense, and he knows what the culture is. Like I can't really say much more about it because you see it on the field, you see it on the TV. Like what you see on TV, and you see on the interviews, like that's him. Like he's straightforward. He loves our player. He loves us as players. He loves his coaches as well. Like it's like what more you want to ask for a coach, you know?
What are the biggest differences, Jeremy, between Coach Day and Coach Meyer?
I think you can really tell how much Coach Day really wants to buy into our mental health and stuff like that. Not that we didn't do that before, but Coach Day's taking some strides in bringing people in to work on our mental health and sports psychology and stuff like that. So all those little opportunities and making sure that we have all the resources we need, he's really big into that, and I think that the team really appreciates that.
Zach, I want to ask you one last question. I was going through your social media, and you tweeted recently, "I can't believe that I'm only 19."
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. I'm curious what made you say that publicly.
I mean, well, sometimes I feel like, you know, as our generation, at least with social media age and everything, we feel like we need to have everything together right now. And that's not necessarily something that's fair for us to expect of ourselves, you know. Like, we're young. I'm 19, they're 20 years old. We're not grown yet. We have all of our lives ahead of us, and that's something that, you know, you got to keep in mind as you navigate this world that you know, you have time to mature, you have time to make mistakes, you have time to learn, you have time to grow. Everything doesn't need to be perfect right now, and that's something that I feel like our generation as a whole needs to remember and needs to learn.
What's it like to be in the spotlight at that young an age?
I mean, it is what it is, I guess. I'm just in the spotlight, you know. Really not.
You don't know any different.
Yeah, it is what it is.
All right, well, I can tell you what it was like not to be in the spotlight at 19. So maybe we'll talk about that later.
Maybe.
Well, you guys have all handled it incredibly well. Really a pleasure to watch you guys compete on the field, and looking forward to what this season holds for the Buckeyes as well. Best of luck, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.